For all our brothers and sisters that are in Israel, may God really bring a complete refuah for all the people that got hurt. And as we say, they should get free, all our hostages. With God's mercy, I hope God will put a lot of success into the hands and into the work of our soldiers. And they should be able to bring everybody back healthy back home. And if they're going to have a ground incursion, whatever you call it, I hope really they'll be successful. There should be miracles, that the world will admit that it's God's work. You know what I'm saying? God is with our soldiers. So one thing, guys, that I wanted to study together with you, it's going to be a little bit. What time is your lunch over? What time is lunch over?
1:10 and then 1:15 class.
Okay, so it might be a little bit longer than usual, but I want you, please, guys, to pay attention a little bit. And I'm sure you're going to take it as mature people. It might be a little bit funny in the beginning. Let's learn about Noah a little bit, right? Okay. You see what happens is Noah, had such a beautiful world around him before the flood. It was fantastic, beautiful world. And then when he goes into the ark, because God wanted to destroy the world, when he comes out, he sees a desolate land. Of course, he got depressed. Right? Unfortunately, sometimes when people are depressed, they have to go attach themselves to things that makes them forget they become happy. Not here, outside of here, they either go to take drugs or they go and take alcohol to forget their problem. I don't think Noah had access to drugs those days. I don't think so, at least. But the Torah tells us that he went and he planted a vineyard and he drank a lot of wine. As you guys know, alcohol is a very bad word. So in the shul, we use not alcohol, borepri agefen. So that's a little bit holier. But honestly, if somebody wants to get drunk, doesn't matter what you're going to call it. So Mefarshim explained because Noah was depressed, he went and, he attached himself to alcohol, he drank. Everybody knows what he did next, right? He goes into his tent and he gets undressed. Something which is, in our language, is totally not sneers or not sneud. Now, he wasn't an 18-year-old guy, that he has hot blood, whatever, he's young, he's crazy, he's not thinking like what happens, in public schools. Unfortunately, he was a man that was 601 years old. He was a pretty old man. He lived 2/3 of his life, right? So he was undressed in his tent. And then Cham, the, so to speak, not such a kosher kid, he comes in, and what does he do? He comes and actually goes out when he sees his father being bare, and he tells the other two brothers, maybe his wife, the sister-in-laws, there were not too many people around in the world. There were only like 8 people. He goes and tells them, oh, look how awful our father is. At this age, he goes and gets undressed. Correct? So now what happened? The other 2 kids, Shem and Yefet, especially Shem, that Avram comes from him. So the Torah tells us what they did is, they took a clothes or blanket, whatever it was. They put it on their shoulders. They walked backwards. Obviously, they don't want to see their father in such a state. They walk backwards. Very noble of them. They covered the bareness of their father. Then it says again, their face was backwards. Why the repetition? If they walked in backwards, of course, the face is not to their father. It's backwards. So Rashi gives an explanation, because when they came to cover their father, they had to turn around to cover him. You can't cover him, your back being to your dad. So they turned around, but they still didn't look at their father. They turned their face the other way. So that's what Rashi says. It says twice. They walked backwards and their face was backwards. The problem that we have, it says, they didn't see the nakedness of their father. Well, obviously, if I take my face the other way, I don't see my father naked. So those words are extra. Rashi doesn't explain. Is that clear, people? When it says they walked in backwards, it's simple. When they come to cover their father, it says the face was the other side. That's also simple, Rashi says. They turned around, but they didn't look at their father. Well, if they didn't look at their father, of course they didn't see their father naked. Why is the Torah saying it again? So see, what happens is we want to go through a statement that the Baal Shem Tov gives. Very powerful statement. The Baal Shem Tov says, whenever I see somebody doing something wrong, it's as if I'm looking inside the mirror. If I look at a mirror and I see a dirty face, because my face is dirty. If I look at the mirror, I find a clean face, my face is clean. So if I see somebody doing something wrong, it's because I have that same sin within me. Now, if I see a terrorist killing somebody, I'm not a terrorist. So the Baal Shem Tov says, you're right. I might not have the same sin exactly, but in a subtle way, I might have it. For example, the Gemara says if I embarrass somebody publicly, it's as if I'm murdering him, right? The Gemara says if I speak Lashon Hara is equal to murder. So when I see somebody doing something wrong, we're going to qualify this soon. Baal Shem Tov says because I have at least in a refined, subtle way the same sin in me. Where does the Baal Shem Tov get this from? Because God doesn't show anything for nothing. How did God call the non-kosher animals in this week's parsha? He used the word tmeya or asher einena tehora. When he tells Noah, take only 2 pairs of a non-kosher animal, what word did he use? Asher lo tehora, because the word tam is bad. It's not nice. You don't call somebody tameh. When you say it's not pure, it's not as bad. So the Gemara Masechta Pesachim, you guys are Talmidei Chachamim, I think it's on Daf Gimel. I'll just say to show off that I know Gemara. I really don't know much. But anyways, on Daf Gimel, the Gemara says that you should not even say something degrading about an animal. So if that's what God teaching us, how can He show me somebody else's negative things? So Baal Shem Tov says, it must be I have that negative thing within me. And I'm not going to realize it until I see it in somebody else. I don't see my faults, right? You know, guys, your parents love you. Oh, my kid is an angel. No, doesn't do anything wrong. That's true. You don't do anything wrong. Your Yetzirah does something wrong, even if you do something wrong. But again, we don't see our own faults. But somebody else says fault, I see, then I realize that I have the same fault in me. I have a question to ask you. Is my job to make myself perfect only, or to be mekarev of other people too? Both. So how does Baal Shem Tov, when I see something bad in somebody, I have the bad in me? Maybe I don't have negative things in me. God is showing it to me, so I should be mekarev him. You know, the whole concept of Baal Shem Tov seemingly falls off. If I see you doing something wrong, who says I have something wrong in me? Maybe I see something wrong in you to be mekarev you, not because I have something wrong in me. So here, you know, the Mefarshim explains depends what my impression is. Imagine, guys, somebody walks in and he's so careless that boom, this book, the sefer falls on the floor. So what a careless guy! Look, he just doesn't care. He knocks out a chumash. Or I could look at it. You know what? It fell on the floor. What's my obligation? I don't judge you. If this fell on the floor, what's my obligation? To pick it up and put it back. So the same way, if I see somebody doing something wrong, what is sticking out by me? If I judge him, what a bad person. If that's what's sticking out, that's what Baal Shem Tov is talking about. That I have the wrong thing in me. If I see somebody doing something wrong, I don't hate him. I don't judge him negatively. I say, well, you know what? He doesn't know the halacha. My job is to teach him the halacha, to learn it with him. But I don't see that something negative. Then that negative thing is not in me. So the Baal Shem Tov is right, depending on how I look at another person. If I really, oh my, this guy is so bad, he's so terrible. He's like a goy, chas v'shalom, if I use such words. Then I have that sin within me, in a subtle way at least. But if I don't judge him negatively, I just see my obligation, then I don't have that wrong thing in me. This is the way, you know, the Mefarshim explained the pasuk that we just learned. It says they walked in backwards. That means physically they walked in backwards. When it says they turned around, their face was the other way, it means physically. But how did they look at their father? As a crazy guy? At the age of 600, he gets undressed? Or they only saw their obligation to honor their father and cover him up? So the Torah says they didn't see the erva. Doesn't mean physically. They didn't look at their father as a negative thing. Look, at his age, he became naked. They didn't look at the nakedness. They only looked at their obligation to cover their father. Is that clear? They didn't look at it as a negative thing. This is a very great lesson for us. You know, people, thank God, you guys are religious. You go to a place that they really teach you to have avas Torah, to love the Torah, to study Torah. You're really, really blessed. Such a beautiful generation. The darkest generation are the most wonderful kids. Boys and girls, both. I'm not kidding. How many women do you find these days? Either they put on a tichel to cover there or they put on a sheitel, a wig. It was never like this. It's crazy. Everybody really wants to keep Torah mitzvot. You look at our soldiers now in Israel. Every word they say is God's name. With God's name, you're going to be successful. It wasn't like this 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's a very, very beautiful generation. But we might see some friends of ours that are not religious yet. They might do wrong stuff. Or our friends in school, they might do wrong stuff. What's my obligation? To judge him negatively? When I want to say, you know what, if this happened, God is teaching me that I should really separate him from the wrong thing. So if what sticks by me is to judge him negatively, that's where the Baal Shem Tov comes in. God is showing me that I have that negative thing in me. If I don't judge you in a negative way, I just see what my obligation is, so then I don't have that negative thing in me. Very great lesson. You know, you could become a psychologist with that. I'm serious. You go to psychologists, they tell you, okay, you have to look at your kid like this. Don't judge your child. This is Parshat Noah. You learn the Torah, you become the best psychologist. I promise you. I was one time in a college, I'm going to finish after this. I was teaching the 10 Commandments of marriage. I had no idea that one of the women that came to my class was actually a therapist, a family therapist herself. So couldn't imagine a rabbi teaching a family therapist. I had no idea. So says Rabbi, what I learned 2 years in university, in 4 classes, I learned the whole thing. I'm sure she was exaggerating. But the point is the Torah has everything in there. You just have to find the right mefarshim, apply your brains, your mind, and actually figure out the awesomeness of the Torah. Thank you for listening, people. You got 20 minutes to eat. Guys, do us a favor. I didn't buy enough. I don't think I did. So let's take 2 slices. Next week, 8 pies, not 6. I hope you like that. I'll give you.